welcome back to the HGC. It is day 2 here in week number 2 so far for phase number 2. Lots of 2s coming at you. I hope you guys are ready for more Urel action as she continues to be really strong here in Europe. My name is Trixer. Oh, there we got Caldor. Are you ready for more Goat Goddess?
Are we calling her the Goat Goddess now? Did Lana convince you?
We're figuring it out, man.
I'm still on the Goat Girl train.
Goat Girl, Goat Lady, Goat Goddess. She brings them all here, man. Greatest of all time. We'll figure it out. She's been doing pretty well so far. We'll see if that trend continues. As we look at the standings, Team Liquid will be playing today, but they continue to reign supreme here with a 2-0 and may want to try and get that 3-0 here to step up over Dignitas as they continue to get their wins. Later on, we'll be looking at the bottom of the standings, though, as Granite Gaming and Zealots will be facing off.
Yeah, and we are going to have a couple of really interesting matches throughout the entire weekend. We already talked a bit how those stats are going to be solidified now slowly and steadily. And as you said, especially later on when Granite Gaming faces off against the Zealots, that's going to be a bit of a relation about this power level that we are seeing here. Since Zealots seem to struggle, Granite Gaming seem to become a bit stronger, but they still lost. And of course, the big question is who's going to take that match, because this is going to be an indication of where those two teams will end up towards the end of the season, what kind of season they're going to have here.
And that match will be later on, but first we're starting with the leftovers in Team Liquid. Then we'll make our way over to Zealots and Granite Gaming, as mentioned by Caldor. But North America today has no tomorrow in Team Freedom, with the finale of Endemic and LFM Esports finishing your Saturday. Not a bad day of games at all, Caldor.
Yeah, I guess today we had some interesting matches too, and if you have missed the North American games, you might want to try and catch up on the series with Octalysis going up against Tempo Storm. It was a pretty interesting one. It went down to the wire, so some interesting games, and also proved again the Punishers can be pretty strong.
Well, heading into the series today, we have Leftovers and Team Liquid facing off. Let's go ahead and get with the players here as they drop insight on you guys at home.
We haven't really scrimmed Leftovers before this phase, but I think they could actually be potentially the 5th best team in HGC at the moment. So going into the series, we of course expect to win, but we really aren't going to underestimate this team. I expect big things from them this season, actually.
I think Team Liquid this season is probably going to be one of the stronger teams, like at least top 4 in my opinion. And I think our match against them is going to show how powerful we are this split, since our team and their team is going to most likely fight for the Western Clash spot. So playing against Team Liquid, I think we should be scared about them picking the bigger maps, and they showed versus Fnatic that they can be pretty dominant in the rotation game and just like dodging team fights and out-leeching the enemy team, so we have to care for that. And I think the series might actually be pretty interesting. It could be like a 50-50 or like maybe a 55 for Liquid, since everyone like roots for them. But if we come and play our game, then we can take the series.
Last week, Team Liquid was able to get 2 big wins. Now, of course, they did go to Game 5, as we saw. But Team Liquid also pulled out the Vikings, and we also saw the Vikings the second time yesterday with Dignitas. Is there a chance that we could have the 3rd Vikings this weekend from Team Liquid?
I mean, there's always a chance, especially when you're having Abathar on the other side. So Liquid heads into the series as the favorite, of course. But at the same time, personally, I want to see how they perform here today, since both of the series that they played felt close, especially the Fnatic series, of course. But even the first one that they played against the Monkeys, they won with a 3-1, but it felt like it could have been a lot closer than that. And with Liquid, there's always that little shadow of a doubt when I think about them.
The Liquid curse.
Yeah, it's just simply because they performed so well for so long, and then all of a sudden, when it comes down to the wire, when we're closing in on the offline events, they seem to fall short a bit. So they had problems in the past after performing really well to perform on a very stable and constant level. Consistency is just a bit of an issue with them. And I want to see today if against Leftovers they can get a clean win, since we oftentimes talk about, hey, are they adapting a little bit to the opponent's level, and are they able to just bring the consistency that they really need to not only go to an offline event, but also perform well there. A lot of experienced players, and a lot of fans out there cheering for them.
Yeah.
But now they kind of have to prove it, because they had so many attempts, so many new rosters, new ideas, new identities, where they came in, they changed the shot caller, they went to Billy, they went to Eternal, and they have to finally deliver on that. And so far they've done it, but they just have to be consistent about it.
Well, let's let the proving grounds continue as we start this best-of-5 series. Game number 1 has been chosen in terms of battlegrounds, as we'll be going to Volskaya Foundry. Leftovers will have the choice here, as Team Liquid will have first pick. Braxis Holdout and Sky Temple will not be played in this best-of-5 series. A couple of things to consider as we head into this match here. For Leftovers, I'm actually wondering if we're going to get linked on Rhaegar. Rhaegar was a character that he loved when Leftovers initially came into the HGC, and they eventually built their way up and tried to make sure not to put him in the draft so much. But with his recent changes coming out there, I'm expecting Rhaegar to show up for Linked.
Linked was for a long time, I don't want to say a Rhaegar one trick, but it was definitely the hero where he excelled at the most.
His bread and butter.
That was the case for years. He was absolutely outstanding on Rhaegar, and then Rhaegar slowly fell out of the meta, and as they came into HGC, they were still holding on to that pick for a long time.
It was first pick for them for a while.
And then moved away from it, exactly. So now they might go back to him again, since Rhaegar has been buffed slightly. But also when it comes to maps, not really a big surprise here. This is a trend that you're going to see through the regular season. We have teams that just simply ban out certain maps, and that's true for Team Liquid so far, and also for Leftovers. Leftovers have, every time that they played, banned out Sky Temple. Today is no exception. And for Team Liquid, we're seeing continuous bans on Braxis. Makes it a bit easier to scrim, makes it a bit easier to prepare for the rest of the maps if you have one consistent ban and limit the map pool that you're practicing on.
Team Liquid opens up with a Genji ban. Genji, Tracer are highest bans as mentioned by Caldor Stats. You can check those out on Twitter. Been being banned pretty often here in Europe. You might see the Abder slip in here and there based on macro games like Towers of Doom, Cursed Hollow, but Tracer wouldn't be a bad ban here for Leftovers. However, they may want to consider keeping her up if they're able to get her on that 1-2 pick. DAB is always willing to run Tracer.
I don't think that you can leave Tracer here, because Liquid knows, of course, how strong DAB is on Tracer, so this is probably a thought process for Leftovers here as well. I don't think that Team Liquid would gamble around that. If Tracer is not banned out by Leftovers, Team Liquid would pick it. Not only because she's fantastic, but also because they're trying to make sure that the AB doesn't get the hero.
Now our traditional first picks. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of Urel, especially yesterday. Will Team Liquid consider her as one that you want to move into? Do we want to go into our supports? Decker, Kane, Malfurion have been really important as of late for our teams.
Urel is definitely interesting now. Currently, we're seeing her with 8 wins and 2 losses. That includes the 2 games that were played last week. And yesterday was also a day where we suddenly saw Phoenix getting a bit slammed into the ground. I mentioned initially when we were heading into our second play day that Phoenix was sitting at 8 wins, 2 losses, and 80% win rate. And Phoenix hasn't won a single game yesterday. He was 0-5. It was actually pretty crazy. So now currently we have him at a 53% win ratio. We're still very, very early in the season in Phase 2 here. And therefore, of course, there's a very small sample size about stats, but still it gives you a little bit of a trend and an idea where those heroes are going to end up.
Yeah.
We're going to have more of a clue once that the games this weekend are over. But it's definitely interesting that Phoenix suffered this much.
Phoenix may get a couple wins today. Leftovers did showcase him last week, and they paired him with Diablo in particular with a Lightning Breath for that Salvo combo.
Yeah, and also we had, for example, Karazim played quite a bit against Phoenix, and just heroes in general that chase him down a bit more and put more pressure onto him. And that was a massive problem for the Phoenix players to keep him alive. So they really struggled doing that.
Speaking of Phoenix, first pick in, Blaze to follow up here from Leftovers, looking for the protection and the poke. Decent control around the control points as well, but might need a little bit more in that front line in terms of tankiness.
But this is also a really big deviation from yesterday, where we've seen Urel take over Blaze's spot, and that's something that Leftovers don't really mirror here. So Urel is at this point just high up in the meta. She's a fantastic solo laner. She's absolutely great when it comes to team fights, and that was mirrored in the priority that she received yesterday, sometimes even ending up in a first pick position. But Leftovers, at least for Volskaya, still value Blaze a little bit more and don't think that he's irrelevant here.
So moving into our second and third pick, do we move straight into our support and our hyper carry, or do we leave that for the later stages of the draft, especially with so many options being available?
I mean, right now I would really think that Liquid would probably, if they value Urel highly, think about the offlaner. And they go for Vala Deckard. So again, Vala double support composition as we've already seen. It's just interesting that they let Urel go, because I think there's a good chance that Leftovers are gonna ban her out. But no, they are more worried about the Vikings. Vikings are really becoming a trend. The interesting thing is that the small change that we see in this setup now is that so far, Vikings have been picked as a counter to Abathur compositions. We are trying to use that, since a lot of teams are very annoyed by the impact that Abathur has on the meta and on the way that you can run on a map. Vikings have been picked up by Dignitas and Team Liquid as a bit of a counter to that. So in this case, there is currently no Avatar chosen, not even banned out yet, but the Vikings already picked banned out early on. And I'm wondering personally if that's a bit of an indication that Leftovers are even thinking about an Avatar pick, but I would very much think so that that's not the case considering that draft.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the teams are now so worried about the potential Viking pick on Team Liquid's side again, as they were in the past, that Avatar, no Avatar, they're still going for the ban.
It's still nice that is definitely still a niche available here in Heroes of the Storm. Volskaya Foundry, Towers of Doom, and Cursed Hollow are now maps that you should consider the Vikings possibly being picked up here in competitive play, which I really enjoy seeing. So, looking into our fourth pick, gonna need our main tank and of course our side laner. Yrel is still up and available, but with Blaze and Diablo being on the opposing side though, you may want to consider someone that can be a little bit more helpful against high tank heroes. I mean, there's still Leoric, there's Malthael up as well. If you want to just bully out your lane, you could move into Sonya as long as you get a strong front tank, but Team Liquid thinking about it now.
Yeah, Liquid at this point, I mean, for now we're having Liquid in a situation where they still need that sort of... I am absolutely still on board with
Yrel.
I think even with the Diablo Blaze front line, you should
There
go
it
for her. And there we have it, putting Johanna into the mix here as well. Okay, so for a second we were theorizing a lot about Vala builds in the past, and I mean there's still the hybrid multi-shot build that's the absolute go-to. But you asked me last time if there is any case of scenario where I would say is I even forgot what it's
Creed of the Hunter.
Creed of the Hunter, yeah. Creed of the Feet.
Creed of the Poggers.
Creed of the Grief. Where that talent becomes an option, and I'm not quite sure if it would ever become an option here, but in the past, Liquid is the only team that actually ran in HGC a Creed of the Hunter build, and that was when Nurok played hero. But Nurok, of course, shifted now to support. That's why I was hesitating for a second, because I don't believe that there's a world in which they go for that. But in the past, it's only them who pull it off once.
Well, with Maiev getting picked up and Diablo being there, Creed the Hunter definitely become a little bit more difficult to actually pull off. You put yourself at risk of being pulled in or even comboed by Diablo. So expecting not to see Hirta, especially with Arcaner. We'll see how this pans out. But the double support Vala, the last couple days in Europe, seems to be back.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far yet.
I mean, it's early sample size, but you can start to think along that line of thought.
Yeah. She is just insanely squishy. That's her biggest problem, and that's what she is suffering the most, that her hit point pool is so low that she can get sniped really easily. That's why you need the double support when you're trying to run her. But we've seen Shrimpy dabble in Vala a little bit, trying to bring her back at the end of Phase 1, 2018. We've seen Dignitas play the hero now just yesterday, once in that Vikings composition, and now we're having Team Liquid trying their hands on her as well. So there are definitely ways where you can bring Vala back in, especially if you're looking for an auto-attacker composition, and Tracer has been banned out, and since Tracer is the most popular ban right now, most of the time you have to rely on a different auto-attacker.
I mean, in terms of looking at drafts, though, you look over at Leftovers, and they can force fights well. They also have that Diablo combo into the Salva that we saw last week that they pulled off together. I actually really like their draft. I kind of lean towards them a little bit here going into Volskaya Foundry.
I have to say that I really like the way that Leftovers have presented themselves so far. On a individual skill level, you would still give the edge to Team Liquid. And Liquid, while having macro problems on the first play, they really made sure that they improved on those issues against Fnatic, where they completely out-macroed Fnatic on a lot of maps. But right now, this is a different story, as we're heading into game number 1 of Volskaya Foundry. And to the left side, we have the Leftovers playing with a Linked on the support. Malfurion and Blakidney on the other hand, currently on Maiev. Polyboss is playing Blaze, Mopsio of course in the main tank role on Diablo, and DAB is playing Phoenix.
On the right side, was that a Banjo? Nurok on Deckard, Asuab's on Tassadar, Eternal on Yrel, Sport Billy on Johanna, and Arcaner on Vala. What played that sound? What was that?
I don't know. What was this name of that show? The Billy Hill show, or whatever that is?
The Benny Hill.
Yeah.
Benny Hill.
Yeah, that's kind of the sound that I associate with that immediately.
That one's more like a chasing scenario. That was more like a Gumba type of sound. Oh, hang on. Maiev goes out. Thinking about maybe go for the engage, but Team Liquid sets up pretty darn well. And they're just going to go straight for wave clear. Immediately heading straight to the top lane.
Now, the important part with Liquid is that they really showcased against Fnatic how strong their macro game can be. And that was a bit of a relief for everyone that watched their earlier series against the Monkeys. because in that series they had a bit of a problem closing out games and making the right calls in the late game, especially when you think back on the core call on Cursed Hollow against the Monkey Menagerie. That's where it kind of showed that they might need a little bit more time to establish a more of a synergy as a team. But against Fnatic, there was nothing to be seen of that. They played extremely well. And this is another map where Liquid, especially in the past, was very strong in making good calls around objectives, and also with a tendency to just dominate games with the first protector taken and then dominating the map through talent advantages. So this is definitely a map where I personally was a bit surprised that it was chosen by Leftovers, since Liquid is so strong here. But Leftovers have a lot of confidence heading into Phase 2 of 2018. So yeah, I'm curious to see what they can pull off, because Leftovers have definitely improved a lot.
For me, I'm actually not too surprised to see Leftovers come here, mostly because Zealots with Mopsio did enjoy this battleground, and Leftovers did dabble here. They were a little bit special when it came to their drafts. Remember, we had Nova on this battleground, etc., but they would try to play it. Speaking of an engage here, Team Liquid trying to force fight here in the top left corner, but Ponyboss comes in from the side, gets a huge Jeppa potion, and they find Vala, and they can find another. Leftovers come out swinging, they get 2 kills, and they take the healing pulse.
Double kill for the Leftovers, and they nearly take a third as well. That was actually fantastic. Tassadar barely escaped, and it all came down to Ponyboss with a fantastic flank. That jet propulsion from Blaze as he's sneaking in from the side was absolute money. He was perfect in that spot. They locked everyone down, and then the damage output just wrecked Liquid. That's not the start that Liquid was envisioning here. Half a level behind, 0-2 in kills, and Leftovers also with the item advantage now.
Definitely hurting there as we head into the next control point. This means Leftovers can get a lead on the control point if they would like to, but if Team Liquid were to try to bully their way in, they can wait it out and move for level 7. This is a nice advantage here for Leftovers, and Team Liquid will try to go for that attempt at grabbing the control point first, as Sportbilly is already standing here, set up and ready to go.
It's also showing a lot of faith in the auto attacker that Liquid goes for the extra life leech on level 4 with Tassadar. Now that has been a continuous talking point for us, since it's so heavily dependent on what kind of composition you run and also what kind of damage composition your opponent is using. But in this case, I actually find it very surprising that they are using it instead of going for the extra armor, since I really believe that it will be tricky for Vala to get a lot of value out of it and work these auto attacks in continuously.
It is Arcaner. He is pretty strong mechanically and looking to get those auto attacks in.
And that's what I meant, like the faith in your damage dealer. And Arcana is just one of the best, just hands down. So there's going to be a lot of responsibility resting on his shoulders.
Arcaner actually just put out an interview with Team Liquid, I believe this morning, talking about how his goal is to become one of the best carries he has in EU or even in the world. Only really trying to build himself up to be as strong as Rich.
Yeah, he told me in an interview that I did with him that he wants to be as strong as Rich, that he knows that this is still, he has a long way to go until he reaches that point, but that's his long-term goal here for sure, to just establish himself as one of the best in the world, not only within the region. And he definitely has the work ethic and also the talent to pull that off. But he has to put that work ethic to some good use here right now, because the first objective is being fought over, and Hazops is already low, needs to be very careful on his Tassadar that he doesn't get sniped, as the Leftovers are moving in and claiming that space at 99% already. And Liquid is in a lot of trouble here, especially since the Eternal gets pushed in again, nearly falling here, but it's actually Blaze who dies first, and Eternal on Urel is able to walk away.
Tassadar shields, Decker Kane shields coming in, a Thurtle able to stay alive. Meanwhile, the entire time, Arcaner continuously working in auto attacks, dodging out on the Ev engage as well. Team Liquid able to find a kill, and they'll start to control the point. Now, the good news for Leftovers is they got 99%. There is a chance for them to regroup here. They have level 7, and they can try to force the issue afterwards.
It was just crazy that Eternal got away there. I mean, yes, Urel is extremely powerful, tanky, and can also use that level 7 talent, the Divine Steed, to move away, the jump as well. But it was pretty crazy that she didn't fall there. Leftovers really wanted that kill. But as you said, with them focusing on Urel as they saw an opportunity to take her down, they left their eyes wander away from Vala, and that was something they got punished for. Phoenix in trouble as DAB has to warp out, but they're going for Eternal at that front again. Mopsio has to be careful. More turrets in place for both of the teams. Eternal again, but the Vault of the Warden saves Blake Kidney as he jumps out, and Deckard Kane with a lockdown attempt here. Mopsio low, so is Urel, but Leftovers, they are not done yet.
Sport Billy is able to get out. He will get rid of the bottom right, but Kenny goes in and gets the tether. Arcane on the top side trying to work in that damage. Leap gets low, so does Mopsio. Mopsio has one combo available to him. Potty Bus goes in, gets a jet propulsion, and there's the combo. Potty Bus securing some of these kills, but Team Liquid, they bite back and get a pick on Maiev.
But Billy is so low and he already had to use his Iron Skin again. Liquid is moving away and gives up the Protector. Leftovers with a fantastic start into this game. The double kill early on thanks to the great flank that we saw from Blaze, and then in this case now the kill from Mopsio. And that was actually really well played because Mopsio was so low and he waited for an opportunity. He sees Tacita and he charges and takes him down. The counter kill through Vala against Maiev was not enough to claim the first objective.
We repeat it every single week that we play Leftovers, but I feel it must continue to be repeated. Leftovers continues to grow so much. When they came into the HGC, their macro play was something that we kind of looked at and said, okay, their macro play is good, they hang in there, but they never found kills in team fights. They never have these flanks, but now they've gotten decent macro and they find picks, and it's getting them in spots where they can get wins.
I actually have to disagree here. When they came in, they first of all, you are absolutely on point when it comes to their improvement. But when they came in, the biggest problem they had is that in the rotations in the early game, they lost too much experience. So they would lose out on individual waves in the game until level 10, and that would always put them on the back foot. And they really cleaned up their game throughout the first part of 2017. But right now, they're in a spot well, I think at this point it starts to become a bit of a meme that we talk about their improvement because they're definitely up there.
Yeah.
They are definitely a strong team at this point. And I'm a bit scared for the rest of the teams that are facing them. I mean, we heard earlier already Team Liquid talk about how they feel they are at least the number 5 team, at least top 5, if not better than that. And the way that they presented themselves against, let's say, the Zealots, for example, is just something where you can see that these guys are here to not only stay, they're here to win. And I feel there's a lot of teams where they can take maps in all this entire series.
They're not letting up either. Coming in here, getting the support camp on the top, putting pressure on Tacita, forging the dimensional shift. Team Liquid has to pull away. Good news for Team Liquid, however, is they do hit level 10. Archon comes on live, and so to stay a while in the sim, which will be helpful against Diablo and Maiev in particular when they go for that aggressive play. Ardent Defender also allows for Eternal to keep doing what Eternal has been doing, which is diving that back line and eating up a lot of damage.
Yeah, Eternal does really well with that. He's just such a disruptive force to the game flow that Leftovers are trying to establish with Urel that it's tough for them to do that. And a lot comes down to also Maiev on the side of Leftovers. This is really where we're currently seeing Blikidney trying to go for these plays the entire time. Sport Billy is also on a bit of a tightrope walk here in every single one of these fights, since despite the amount of shields that we're seeing here, Johanna is oftentimes put into a bit of an awkward spot where Sport Billy is just barely escaping. And he kept himself alive throughout the last fight. He lost the Protector then in the end. But there were a lot of opportunities where I thought, well, if someone gets on Sport Billy right now, he might fall. And once the tank is gone, with the setup that Liquid is running, you are in trouble because you can just openly walk towards Vala and put him under pressure.
I mean, that's certainly his job in this competition. Just dance around and give time for Vala to work out that damage. You get better at level 16 if Vanacore comes online and they try to shred that front line a little bit better. 13 will be here soon for Team Liquid, but Leftovers have already hit it as they prepare for the next control point. The next 4 in the top right corner also pretty low on health, and that well's been cleaned up too. So Leftovers again heading to that second point with a pretty clear advantage.
And we talk about this every time that we are on Volskaya, but it's just very, very important. And if you don't watch every single game of HGC, then this is one of the lessons you can take away from it. With the first Protector, you're trying to make a rotation into the top lane. So you get a bit of damage in the middle, and then you rotate to the top. The objectives are actually set. The first one spawns middle, the second one top, the third one bot lane. So you want to prepare for the second objective already. The first Protector will put you in a position where you can get an advantage fighting over the second objective. So you're trying to use that snowball. And the most important play is that you take down your opponent's fountain at the top lane, so that when there's a long fight, they can't move back to the fountain and simply reset by topping off hit points and mana. In an ideal world, you take the fort as well, so that they have no retreat point where they can fall back and you can't chase them. But this is what Leftovers have done. So now they have that advantage. They don't rely on a talent lead, since Leftovers is currently on level 14, Liquid on 13. But they now have the position where they can rotate up and use that fountain on their own end to get a bit of a lead here.
Team Liquid will step up and try to grab the control point. It's one way to kind of mitigate that well being killed off. If you grab the control point first and get a lead on the percentage, you can, of course, Hearthstone all the way back home and then reset up and re-engage it later. Team Liquid already doing well here, but Tacit already needs to be careful. Dimensional Shift comes out as he has to watch out for the combo. Maiev goes forward and drops the Warden Cage. Sport Billy all by himself in the top right corner. Salvo will come out, but stay a while and listen. We'll stop Leftovers in the tracks.
Not really a big fan of the combo that was just used by Leftovers. That didn't get as much value as they were hoping for. A bit premature what we saw there, I think. But they still push Liquid back. And again, Liquid doesn't have a fountain here, so they just have to wait for Norok to top everyone off with that Arcane before they can re-engage again. And the early use cooldown might not quite have gotten as much value as they wanted, but it gives them now a chance to maybe use the combo even a second time during the second objective.
They're actually setting up for items too. They have one turret currently on them. They sent Yrel to the bottom right to grab the second turret. We'll try to come up here and fight right before 16 connects, and that'll allow Team Liquid to have a couple more items, or one item actually, over their opponent, and maybe allow for them to get that fight they're looking for.
And now look at the cooldowns here on the heroic abilities. 17 seconds for Diablo, 25 for Phoenix. So they used it early. It didn't get quite as much done as you would normally like to do, but because they used it so early in the objective, they will have access to it a second time.
Johanna trying to hold the point while Eternal goes for a flank. He gets in the back line and goes for a big knockback as well. Arcaner has to step up, but he's done with Diablo here on the front line. Bunker being used by Leftovers to stay alive. Big jet propulsion coming out. However, at the same time, Phoenix gets picked.
Yeah, and they're going completely wrecked here. Malfurion goes down, Phoenix and Blaze are dead as well. Diablo with a late lightning breath. At least Johanna has fallen, but now only Blakidney on the move back. Leftovers definitely with a fight that they didn't need to take there. The heroics were not there. They had no lightning breath at the beginning, and the salvo was also not ready, and they still had the fountain up. That was a completely unnecessary fight from their perspective. That if they win it, is fantastic and wins them the objective and also, of course, the healing pulse. But the smarter play would have been to just let it go, tap off at the fountain if you need to, and rely on your combo a second time during the fight.
Now, Johanna may have fell, but Scorpio did a really good job holding down that point for as long as he could. Got a massive condemn outside of the bunker as well, grouping everyone up for that multi-shot to come in from a Team Liquid. And speaking of level 16, hitting Manticore is now online. This is where Vala becomes a terrifying force against the front line. Diablo will have to play safe.
Yeah, also not forget about this last fight. Yrel wrecked them completely. Like, everybody was clustered on the point, and then Yrel starts jumping in, and through the Altar Peacekeeper, the damage reduction was already making it difficult for Leftovers to get any value, but they barely saved themselves by dropping a bunker. But as everyone enters the bunker, they're already so low that even with the extra armor, when they emerge from the bunker, they just get picked off one after another. So they just put another target point on their forehead there, and it just didn't work for them. This Yrel did so much there. Eternal had a field day with this.
Team Liquid with the next Protector. Aim for the fort here in the middle, poking where they can on their opponent, keeping Vala nice and safe in the Protector. As Johanna goes ahead and kites away. Should see them rotate to the bottom side with the last few seconds of duration on this. Maybe put some damage on that front wall. Hang on though. Mobsteel wants to fight. Goes in for Eternal, tosses him to the side here. Does Eternal have his jump up?
Yeah, Eternal should actually, but they are still fighting against the Protector. That's an issue. The slow is there, and Mopsio is in trouble. Yeah, moves away, but he's going to fall eventually once he goes out of the bunker. He's trying to escape, but the Protector shows no mercy there. The souls are gone, he goes down. Mopsio over chasing for Yrel. He allowed that turnaround, and now we have Blaze dying to double kill against Leftovers as Team Liquid is claiming kill number 6 and 7.
Team Liquid is just controlling Leftovers and the bunker well, every single time trying to clean it up as quickly as they can, but also making sure their opponent is unable to escape away, and that nets them a couple more kills. They move forward and grab the turret. They look at the bottom lane. They have a full level over their opponent, and this will be instrumental as we head towards that late game and move in for another control point. Team Liquid, if they can take more forts here, can play for 20.
Yeah, and they're going to try to. Linked is already getting wrecked here. He's down. And currently Leftovers are falling apart. They're showing a severe lack of discipline at this point. They're just staggering deaths. They're engaging into another fight as Blaze is still missing. Lose now Diablo again and Blaze. That's kill number 8 and 9 for Team Liquid. And also the engage against Yrel in the mid lane where Mopsio initially fell was just, if that's not Yrel, if that's Vala, yes, go for it. You can blow her up. But you're talking about Yrel here. She is not going to fall easily. So as long as there's a bit of time for Team Liquid to rotate with a Protector back into the middle, you're not going to take that fight. So Leftovers, definitely too aggressive, not disciplined enough at this point. And the massive lead that they had at the beginning of the game is now completely negated. Liquid punished them for every single mistake, and now they are about to head into level 20. Liquid turned this game around completely.
And Farflight Quiver comes online at level 20 for Vala, which means she'll be even safer against her opponent. Diablo will have a hard time diving her. This is looking pretty hard here for Leftovers to make a comeback. They will go ahead and start setting up their lanes and work towards that level 20. Control point should be up soon. They shouldn't be able to engage that on equal talent, so they might have to give that up and then defend against a Protector. The thing is, can they handle a Protector going straight in the bottom lane this late? They don't really have the best Protector clear between Maiev. I mean, Phoenix can get up, but his range is a little bit too short there, and the Protector can jump on at any point.
The power spike for Team Liquid on 20 is going to be insane in team fights, since especially the Farflight Quiver is going to make it very easy for Vala to get Manticore value. So she is going to attack from, like, she's going to get so much more value from every single auto attack, and that also gives her more synergy with Passida's level 4. We said earlier that it's a big question of how much pressure will be on Vala, how much can she work in those auto attacks, and especially with her level 20, that's not going to be a problem for her anymore at all. So that's going to synergize with her sustain that she gets granted from Passida and the damage through Manticore. And again, Liquid is not even waiting. With a level 20, they go in, they drop Maiev, they drop Blaze, and they are absolutely shracking Leftovers right now.
They can just in the game now. Another slow comes out. Mafio just eating damage. You see Arcaner shredding through him, but Arcaner will turn his attention towards the core. 35 seconds up before we even have Maiev and Blaze on the field. The core starts to lose its armor. It gets shredded down with Infinite Archon here. Team Liquid can win the game.
With Manticore in particular, Vala is currently taking a massive dump on Mopsio's Diablo. There's just no way to keep Mopsio alive here. He goes down again. Phoenix falls as well. There's just no chance. Liquid is dominant here. Goes in and drops the leftovers on Volskaya. Great victory here by Liquid. Controlling the mid, controlling the late game, and never letting go once the leftovers gave them a chance.
Yeah, Leftovers solid early game, but as you mentioned, Team Liquid definitely controlled the mid and late game. I just felt like Leftovers just got a little bit too hectic. They were trying to force fights, trying to get these kills they just couldn't quite get. Urel being a main focus for them just didn't make much sense, and Team Liquid is able to punish that heavily. I feel like I understand that fight in that bottom left corner. You're trying to force a fight underneath the keep, but it's just, you didn't have your teammates right behind you. Maybe you just give that up and get 20 instead, because you already made the play for the fort in the top right.
I get the fight at the keep. The problem was not the fight at the keep. There were two issues. The first problem, or the first mistake, was the fight over the healing pulse. That was the first one to commit that heavily onto the point and allowing Urel to go in and just completely destroy them there. And the second was when they moved out from the mid fort and tried to get the pick on Urel, even though the Protector was right next to them. That was really when it turned around. Because up to that point, even with the second Protector going over to Liquid, Liquid was half a level ahead, if so. That's absolutely manageable. 7 versus 17.5, you are in a pretty okay spot where you can still force fights on 16 talents and are even around that.
Sure.
But then they lost 4 heroes in the middle, I think. And that was just way too much. And they can't allow for that. Even the fight at the top, they used the entire combo early so they can use it a second time during the Protector. And because they engaged into the fight around the healing pulse when Phoenix didn't have his ult ready yet, Diablo didn't have it ready at the start either. He just used it towards the end when the first 2 heroes have already fallen. It negated all the advantages that they played for before. Every single time, every single thing that they build up to have the edge, they just threw out the window there.
2 risk put you in a high risk, high reward situation basically in that late game, and they just could not pull it off. Team Liquid gets a win, and Team Liquid continues to be on a good track. And speaking of track, we have all of their matches they'll be having in the next couple of weeks, as Team Liquid already so far has a 2-0, looking to grab a 3-0 today. Next week, they'll be facing off against Zealots and Dignitas, as they'll have a double-header weekend. And then, of course, they end the season with Granite Gaming and Method.
The match against Dignitas and against Method are, of course, the ones that we look forward to the most. And Liquid is really on the right track. I'm still not giving up on Leftovers for this series, though. So Liquid is currently looking strong and a great initial victory on Volskaya. But Leftovers have shown, at least in the early games, some great plays. And if they can just be a little bit more disciplined and calm and collected heading into fights around the mid and late game, then I think Liquid might still have to work pretty hard for a victory here. Because the early game looked good for Leftovers, but Liquid after that, Liquid forced mistakes and then punished them hard, and they were just staggering deaths on Leftovers side the entire time, and that was exactly what they needed to do. Like, once that snowball came, they didn't even need the last Protector. They were just like, yeah, why would you go for Protector? We just end it now.
I mean, if you had to pick somebody in that game that would be the MVP, who would you pick? Would you look at a Thurnal, who was hopping around the back line and creating a lot of space? Maybe Johanna was quietly really setting up the kills for Arcaner to come in?
I mean, it's a bit tricky to say because I mean, you have two supports that are trying to enable Arcana, so Arcana did a fantastic job.
Sure.
Dishing out the damage, but I think it was really the team putting him into that position, and without them, he wouldn't be able to do that. So I would probably give it over to Eternal, who did, and to Sport Billy, the two frontliners, that did really well, just zoning, make sure that nobody got onto Vala in the first place, and just created that havoc at the front. Especially Eternal was baiting a lot of actions against him, and always was able to just sustain himself through with the help of course, Tassadar throwing out these shields.
Sure.
I think you can't really highlight one specific person. I don't think there were a lot of plays where you say, like, okay, this was the one play that won the fight. It's just like team effort at this point, where they did a great job focusing all the attention away from Vala, allowing Arcana to do what he does best, just take people down here. And it was just really well played. And from the compositional aspect, it was them completely understanding, okay, what do we need to do here? How do we stack this? Getting the shields to deck it out with this level 4, getting Tassadar in. Then you have the blinds coming in from Sport Billy every single time that Eternal is in trouble. So it was just understanding the composition well and playing as a unit.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Who do you guys think was the MVP? Let us know on Twitter. Hit us up. Use the hashtag HGC Heroes Esports is the Twitter that you'll hit up. We do have one tweet coming in from Gork Sanity. I'm here for the TLV play, Team Liquid Heroes Esports. It was banned out in game number 1. However, there is a possibility that we have 4 more games, so that could be a dream come true for you.
Yeah, at the same time, the Vikings are still a hero that I want to see occasionally.
Yeah, I don't want them every game.
But not every series.
If they're every single game, we'll have to talk to Blizzard, get them nerfed. All right, let's go to Battleground at number 2 here in this best of 5 series because we had that power.
Yeah, we're gonna nerf Vikings once we buff Chen.
Yeah. That poor guy, man.
AKA never.
Poor Chen, dude.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, you have to be careful with buffing him, though. Like, if he gets to a spot where he can just shut down people, I don't know. I remember MSB in 2017 with Abathur Chen. It was ridiculous. What is this?
I'm gonna become a Chen main.
You'll become the Chen main. just drink in the middle of team fights and win.
He's a fat panda and he drinks all day.
Spirit animal for Caldor.
But to be honest, the strategy that we saw at MSB that you're referring to was a different style. That was just like the combo in itself. It was not necessarily Chen. It was Chen fulfilling a bit of a niche role and a very specific role within that 5-man that allowed the strategy to work.
Yeah.
So I don't think that necessarily is an indication of him being too strong.
And that was a meta where we didn't have much crowd control being available, so you were trying to punish that. Let's go into game number 2 as we head into Infernal Shrines.
Infernal Shrines, map picked by Team Liquid, so we're having first pick scenario for the leftovers. They ban, obviously, Genji, since they want Tracer. Very unlikely that Team Liquid allows them to get Tracer.
I'm actually curious to see if we get Sonya on this battleground. We didn't have any Infernal Shrines yesterday, and we also had 0 Sonya picks. My question being if Yrel is just too much of a bully that we don't even see Sonya much anymore.
I don't think that we're going to see Sonya anytime soon with this, because we have Yrel now, Blaze, both of them are fantastic, and then when you talk about